We are the team Quartry Accomplishers, and today we're going to present a seminar on soil chemistry. Before we get started, let me first introduce my teammates to you all. So, in our team, we have I'm Sara, we then have Roshni, Hepzibah, Abhinav, and Sibi. Let's now see the topics which we will be emphasizing on today. So, we're going to be dealing with CEC first, then soil water solution, nitrogen cycle, soil acidity, and soil salinity. To begin with, let's look into cation exchange capacity. So first let's see as to what CEC is. CEC is thus a measure of soil's ability to hold positively charged ions by electrostatic forces. Let us now look into what exchangeable cations are. Exchangeable cations are those cations that are loosely attached to soil particles which are negatively charged. Ions like Ca2 plus, Mg2 plus, and K plus are essential for plant growth, whereas ions like H plus, Al3 plus, Mn2 plus, and Na plus ions affect soil pH. All these ions put together are termed as soil cations. Moving forward, let's see as to how CEC is measured. So here we see that CEC is measured on clayey soils. So soil is first washed with solutions like ammonium acetate, etc., so as to remove excess salts while measuring CEC. Also, pre-treatment method here refers to that process where the soil is first treated with minerals like calcite, etc., to measure exchangeable cations. Nextly, let's see as to how CEC is expressed. Thus, it is normally expressed in one of the two numerically equivalent sets of units, milliequivalents per 100 grams of dry soil or C mole per kg of dry soil. Lastly, let us now look into the management implications of CEC. Firstly, a high CEC value implies more amount of clay and organic matter in the soil. We know that clay soils have the greatest water holding capacity. So, in terms of CEC, high CEC soils have greater water holding capacity. Secondly, lower the CEC levels in soil, the faster the soil pH decreases with time. And lastly, soils with low CEC develop deficiencies in K plus, Mg2 plus, and other cations. The addition of organic matter increases the CEC of a soil. Thus, to wrap up, CEC is a good indicator of soil quality and productivity. Over to you, Hepzibah.
Thank you, Sarah. Now let's see about soil water solution. Soil water, sometimes referred to as soil solution. It contains both the organic and inorganic substances, and it also transports dissolved nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and calcium to the plant roots for absorption. Now, moving on to the next slide. The soil water is important for four vital reasons. Firstly, the presence of water is essential for all life forms on earth, including plants and organisms in the soil. Secondly, water is necessary for weathering of soil. Many soils vary in their degree of weathering. It is expected that soils have been affected by different amounts of water. Soil water is the medium from which all plant-based nutrients are assimilated by plants. Lastly, yield of crops is first determined by the amount of water available in soil. Moving forward to the next slide. The amount of water in the soil is dependent on two factors. Firstly, it is intimately related to the climate or the long-term precipitation patterns of an area. And secondly, it depends upon how much water the soil may hold. Now let's see about water holding capacity. It is the amount of water that a given soil can hold for crop use. Here, the soil texture and organic matter are the key components that determine the soil water holding capacity. Firstly, let us see about soil texture. The smaller particle sizes have large surface area. The larger the surface area, the easier it is for the soil to hold on to water, so it have a high water holding capacity. And coming to soil organic matter, it is the another one important factor that help increase water holding capacity. It has a natural magnetism to water. If the farm increases the percentage of soil organic matter, the soil water holding capacity will increase. Now moving on to the next slide. So here let us see about how soil water is expressed. It is expressed in two different ways: volumetric soil water content and soil metric potential. Soil water content indicates the quantity of water in the soil but does not directly indicate the availability of this water to plants. Then, soil metric potential. It represents the relative availability of the amount of water held in the soil profile for plant uptake or use. SMP indicates the amount of energy plants will have to exert to extract the water molecules from soil particles. Moving forward to the next slide. So here soil water is also known as resic water. There are three main types of soil water. First one is gravitational water, capillary water and hygroscopic water. Now moving on to the next slide. Firstly, let us see about what is gravitational water. It is a free water moving through soil by the force of gravity. It is largely found in macropores of soil and it is very little gravitational water is available to plants. And coming to the capillary water, it is held in the micropores of the soil. Capillary water has some surface tension properties like cohesion and adhesion. What do you mean by cohesion and adhesion? Cohesion means it is water molecules are attracted to one another and form water droplets. And adhesion means this force is responsible for attraction between water and solid surfaces. It increases pore size and gravity and starts to turn capillary water into gravitational water and it moves down. And lastly, coming to the hygroscopic water, it forms a very thin film around soil particles and not available to the plant. It is found in the soil particles and not in pores, and it have a higher percentage of it, like clays, for example. Thank you. Now over to you, Roshni.
Thank you, Hepzibah. Now let's see about nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle is a biogeochemical process which transforms the inert nitrogen present in the atmosphere to a more usable form for living organisms. It is a key nutrient element for plants. Coming to the next slide. It is a process through which nitrogen is converted into many forms, consecutively passing from the atmosphere to the soil, to the organism, and back into the atmosphere. It involves several processes such as nitrogen fixation, nitrification, denitrification, assimilation, aminification. The entire process of nitrogen fixation is completed by symbiotic bacteria which are known as diazotrophs. Nitrogen fixation is essential to life because fixed nitrogen compounds are required for the biosynthesis of all nitrogen containing organic compounds such as amino acids. Now moving on. There are three types of nitrogen fixation. The first one is atmospheric fixation. It is a natural phenomenon where the energy of lightning breaks the nitrogen into nitrogen oxides and is then used by plants. The oxide formed as nitric oxide by lightning and UV rays. More than 90% of all nitrogen fixation is affected by them. Industrial nitrogen fixation. It's a man-made alternator that aids in nitrogen fixation by the use of ammonia. Biological nitrogen fixation (BNF) is carried out by a specialized group of prokaryotes. We already know that nitrogen is not usable directly from air for plants and animals. Bacteria like Rhizobium and blue-green algae transform the unusable form of nitrogen into other compounds that are more readily usable. Moving on. Nitrification. In this process, the ammonia is converted into nitrate by the presence of bacteria in the soil. Nitrates are formed by the oxidation of ammonia with the help of Nitrosomonas bacterium species. Later, the produced nitrites are converted into nitrates by Nitrobacter. This conversion is very important as ammonia gas is toxic for plants. The reaction involved in the process is as follows. NH4 plus 3 oxygen gives rise to 2NO2 plus 4H plus 2H2O, and 2NO2 plus O2 gives rise to 2NO3 minus. Moving on. Assimilation. Primary producers like plants that take in nitrogen compounds from the soil with the help of their roots, which are available in the form of ammonia, nitrate ions, nitrite ions, or ammonium ions, are used in the formation of the plant and animal proteins. Ammonification. When plants or animals die, the nitrogen present in the organic matter is released back into the soil. The decomposers, namely bacteria or fungi present in the soil, convert the organic matter back into ammonium. This process of decomposition produces ammonia, which is further used for biological processes. Denitrification. Denitrification. Denitrification is the process in which nitrogen compounds makes its way back into the atmosphere by converting nitrate into gaseous nitrogen. This process of the nitrogen cycle is the final stage and occurs in the absence of oxygen. Moving on. Nitrogen cycle in marine ecosystem is same as terrestrial ecosystem. The only difference is that it is carried out by marine bacteria. The nitrogen containing compounds that fall into the ocean as sediments get compressed over a long period and form sedimentary rock. Due to the geological uplift, these sedimentary rocks move to land. Importance of nitrogen cycle. It helps plants to synthesize chlorophyll from nitrogen compounds. It also helps in converting inert nitrogen gas into usable form for the plants through the biochemical process. In the process of ammonification, the bacteria help in decomposing the animal and plant matter, which indirectly helps to clean up the environment. Nitrates and nitrites are released into the soil, which helps in enriching the soil with the necessary nutrients required for cultivation. Nitrogen is an integral component of the cell and it forms many crucial compounds and important biomolecules. Over to you, Sibi.
Thank you, Roshni.
Abhinav.
Hello, good morning. My name is Abhinav Rajesh, and I'll be talking about soil acidity. So what is soil acidity? Soil acidity, or soil acidification as some people call it, can be described as the phenomenon that occurs when the base pH of a soil is reduced. This generally occurs when there's a huge buildup of hydrogen ions in the soil. These ions are built up by many factors, both natural and artificial, and I'll discuss some of the factors right now. Sarah, could you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. What are the causes of soil acidification? There are many forms of pollution that result in this phenomenon. One of the main causes is acid rain. Acid rain is caused by the emulsion of sulfur and nitrogen ions from either the car exhaust fumes or burning of fossil fuels. When it reaches the clouds, it mixes with water vapor and forms sulfuric acid and nitric acid. When this affects the soil of pH when it comes down to it. Second, biotic weathering. This is when dead plants decompose to form excess organic acids. These acids can react to the soil and deplete the basic compound from it, making the soil more acidic. Third, abiotic weathering. This is when rocks are weathered and broken down into sediments. And as Roshni has said before, these sediments contain nitrogenous compounds which can form nitric acid. And when these reach the soil, they again in turn reduce the pH, making it more acidic. And finally, the human activities. There are many human activities that cause soil erosion, but one of the major ones is farmers and their overuse of fertilizers and manures. These substances have sulfur and nitrogen based compounds that can lead to acidification. Next slide, please. Thanks. Now, what does soil acidity lead to? Increase in the acidity of soil can greatly diminish the quality of the soil in the long run. This can lead to land being uninhabitable to many microorganisms, whose loss could lead to soil erosion. It can be difficult to farm as increase in soil acidity can lead to stunted crop growth and reduced seed germination. When rain pours on these acidified soils, the loose nutrients can easily leach into lakes and ponds and cause a process known as eutrophication. Eutrophication can be described as a process when the algae reacts with the organic matter in the water and forms a layer which can deplete the oxygen level in the ocean, killing off many organisms. Now, let us discuss some ways to prevent this. There are many ways to preserve the soil from these effects. Here are some of the widely used ones. One, the most basic thing is adding a basic substance to it. Alkaline compounds like calcium carbonate or calcium oxide can neutralize the acid and make the soil in a more balanced pH. This can improve soil quality. Another method we should implement is the use of better irrigation system and use less acidic fertilizers. By this I mean use better farming practices. Practices that help the soil in turn and not just use for profit. Overall, reducing the amount of pollution that takes place around the soil can really leave a positive impact on the environment. In this case, the burning of fossil fuels that eventually lead to acid rain must be reduced. And thank you. Have a nice day.
Now we are going to see about soil salinity. Next slide, please. Let's see introduction of soil salinity. Soil is a non-renewable resource. Once lost, it can't be recovered in a human's lifespan. Soil salinity simply means the amount of salt content in the soil. The process of increasing the salt content of the soil is called salinization. Salinization causes 10 to 25% decrease in yield of several crops. It may prevent cropping altogether when it serves and can never lead to desertification. Why we bother about salinization? We bother about it because it reduces yield of crops. Next slide, please. What is salinization? The process of increasing the salt content of the soil. What are the causes? Natural causes and man-made causes. Natural causes: the weathering of rocks, low-lying coastal areas, gradual rescinding of sea. Man-made causes: irrigation of land, salty groundwater coming to the surface. Salinization has got an impact on green revolution and it may ultimately lead to famine. So we are very concerned about the salinization of the soil. Next slide, please. Salinity. What is water salinity? The amount of salt in water is called water salinity. What is soil salinity? The salt concentration in water extracted from the saturated soil. Usually, the rocks contain. How do we express water salinity? As grams per liter and milligrams per liter or ppm parts per million. High saline soils usually have salt concentration greater than 12 grams per liter. When the water table is between 2 to 3 meters from the surface of the soil, salinity occurs in dry lands. Accurately, we measure the salinity by electrical devices. Why do we bother about salinity? Because they indirectly affects the growth of some crops. For example, date, palm, barley, cotton, etc. can tolerate high salinity. Salt saturation greater than 10 grams per liter. Like wheat, tomato, rice, maize, potato, carrot, onion, etc. are tolerate moderate salinity and salt concentration is 5 grams per liter. Beans, peas, sugar cane, apple, orange, etc. are salt sensitive plants. Salt salinity is lesser than 2.5 grams per liter. Let's move on to next slide. Sodicity. When sodium content of the soil is higher than any other salts, how does sodic soil affect the plant growth? Poor soil structure, poor aeration, low filtration rate. The pH of sodic may be acidic, alkalinic, neutral. The sodic soils have exchange of sodium percentage more than 15%. Let's move on to the next slide. How do we improve salinity of the soil? By leaching followed by subsurface drainage of excess water. How to improve sodicity? By adding gypsum to the soil. Gypsum is hydrated calcium sulfate. So here calcium replaces sodium to the soil. The challenge of sodic soil are the soil accumulates boron and molybdenum. At the root zone areas, they are toxic to plants. As food technology students, we are worried about the edible plants grown in toxic soil, which may be harmful to us. Thank you.